Good morning. Thank you, Steve, for that beautiful music, and thank you all for being here this morning. Happy spring, happy Easter. Thank you all for making it out into this beautiful spring morning. The sun is shining and the earth is blossoming with beauty. We have a wonderful service to present this morning, and my name is Sally Joe. I'm co-minister along with Jamal Rahman, and we welcome you this morning, and we are going to ring the bell to start the service so we all know we're beginning. And isn't it so that every day is a new beginning in our lives, and we like to keep that reminder going. We have lit the World Peace Candles. The World Peace Candles have some work to do today. And we're giving them a heartfelt assignment to help us come to world peace. This is not just a phrase. It's not just a word. It's a concept that we must bring into realization as a planet, okay? So let's each put our own energy and call in on whatever energies we have access to take the concept of world peace to our hearts. I pray for that, for all of us. And I thank our scriptures that are in our collection here in the altar, and the wisdom that has been recorded in those scriptures from time immemorial. It's only a piece of the wisdom, but it's an important piece of the wisdom. And we need to continue to access that wisdom as we go through our day and our week and our year. And we pray for guidance through the wisdom traditions and any other access, as we said, we have to it. We have a candle here for the divine feminine. Let us not forget that divinity does not have a gender. It includes all genders, all races, all people, because we are divinity. We are an expression of the divine. All of life is an expression of the divine. All of the inanimate nature is an expression of the divine. All creation is an expression of the divine. And the more we get in touch with that concept of inclusivity, that everything matters. Everything is within us and everything is outside of us. This is too hard for our small little brains, but we can do it. We can do it. And I invite us all to keep expanding our awareness and our understanding of what we mean by the earth, by people, by humanity, by wisdom, by everything that we are trying to achieve in this life and in our planet, because we're all responsible for it. And thank you for being here on a day like today to share in community our responsibility for the earth. At this point, we'd like to invite our ancestors, because our ancestors and our descendants are a part of us too. And they live within us, they live around us. We may not be able to see them, but we can feel them. Sometimes we can hear them talking to us. I know I have conversations with my parents. I can't pick up the phone the way I used to, but I can imagine. And I can cry out to them, and I do, and I hope you do too, because they are within us. They're in every cell in our body. And they created us, but so did the stars create us, because we have all the elements of the stars in the cosmos. So call on who you will, because in the Native American tradition, they're all our relations. We can say all our relations. And we remember that coming down the road after us will be our descendants. And some of them are here already, being born every day. I heard of another birth. On my family call this morning, my brother told us about a friend of ours family who's just had another baby. And I just think every time a baby is born, it's an indication that God does not despair of the world. Jamal, you taught me that quote. Where does that come from? That's from Rabindranath Tagore. Every time a child is born, it is proof that God does not despair of the world. I heard that the first time I met Jamal at Town Hall, Seattle. He said that quote, and it brought tears to my eyes then, and it does so again. It's too big for us to really understand, but it's beautiful. And so we honor our ancestors, we thank them, we invite them to the space with us. And again, we ask for their wisdom and their guidance, and we stand on their shoulders, the brave people, the men and women who have come before us and who have struggled for justice and kindness and compassion and love to rule the world. We have them to thank for creating an environment where we can be free and can pursue our interests and our passions. And we think of all of our teachers, all of the people we have learned from, whose wisdom we have gathered, who have taught us lessons, who have given us examples of how to live a beautiful life. And I know we'll all think of our own examples of that, and as we invite them into our space. And we also honor the people who lived in this particular land that we are now abiding in, the Native American people of the Coast Salish tradition, the Duwamish, the Snohomish, the Squinomish, all the different tribes from the Coast Salish tradition who have stewarded this land all along and who have kept it in a place where we can now enjoy it. It's unceded territory. We acknowledge that, and we ask forgiveness for that, for all the violence that was done in order to have this land. We know that Native American people still live here. We share it with them, and we honor them, and we love to go down to the Longhouse and visit and hear about their traditions and their culture. And on Marginal Way, beautiful, beautiful building and a place to explore more about the Native American traditions in this particular local area. And we pray that at one time soon they will be acknowledged and recognized by the United States government, the Duwamish tribe, as a Native American tribe. Let's do I'm going to do this because you came late, Chris, but I know you'll help us with this, where we take our prayer and we send it up to the Creator, and then if we are lucky and if we're happy and if we're joyful, we get a prayer back that we can put into our heart, and we say, how, is that it? Okay, so let's put our hands on our heart. We can make a prayer or just be prayerfully present with that, with our breath, and then we lift it up to the Creator, and we thank the Creator for whatever gift she or he may be giving us, and we go, and we bring it back to our hearts. And I want to introduce our guest today, which is our very dear friend, Reverend Judith Laxer. She will be offering the Divine Feminine for us, and so I want to introduce her now so she can get on with her portion of the service. And she's going to help us to celebrate the season of spring and all that it means in her tradition. Judith is a modern-day mystic. She describes herself as a modern-day mystic who believes that beauty, humor, and the wonders of nature make life worth living. Now, who can argue with that, huh? We all agree. She's the founding priestess of Gaia's Temple, now in its 26th year here in Seattle, a spiritual mentor, ceremonialist, and writer. She's also a keynote speaker, a teacher of the magical arts and mysteries, and author of the book Along the Wheel of Time, Sacred Stories for Nature Lovers. She dedicates her work to the rise and cultural integration of the divine feminine in all her magnificence and wisdom. And then she has her websites and her social media. So we invite Judith Laxer here. She usually visits us at least once a year and shares her wisdom with us, and we're so happy to have her today. And she's also going to be leading us in some singing, so get your vocal cords ready for that. Thank you.
You. Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Sally Jo. So the offering for the Divine Feminine, I thought we would sing today. Many of you know the song, We All Come From the Goddess. It's a very simple chant. I thought we would sing it just over and over a few times through. I'm going to overlay some goddess names on top of it, but if you keep the bottom central line, that would be great. And just in case you didn't know, this song, We All Come From the Goddess, and the words are in your program in the insert. They're on the bottom part of the insert. We all come from the goddess, and to her we shall return, like a drop of rain flowing to the ocean. These are words that came to Z Budapest in a ritual on the mountains in California back in the early 70s. And she started singing it like a chant, and it took on, and now it's sung all over the world. But what a lot of people don't know is that the goddess names that I'm going to be singing over, Isis, Astarte, Diana, Hecate, Demeter, Kali, Inanna, were put together as a chant by Dina Metzger, who is an author who also lives in California, but they were completely separate. They didn't create this together, and some brilliant person figured out that they could overlay it and make this magnificent chant. And so here we go. I'll sing the first line and you sing it back to me. We all come from the goddess. We all come from the goddess. And to her we shall return like a drop of rain. And to her we shall return like a drop of rain. Now me. Flowing to the ocean, flowing to the ocean. So we'll put it together and keep it going. We all come from the goddess, and to her we shall return like a drop of rain, flowing to the ocean. We all come from the goddess, and to her we shall return like a drop of rain, flowing to the... Keep it going. Isis, Astarte, Diana, Hecate, Demeter, Kali, Inanna. Isis, Astarte, Diana, Hecate, Demeter, Kali, Inanna. Isis, Astarte, Diana, Hecate, Demeter, Kali, Inanna. Isis, Astarte, Diana, Hecate, Demeter, Kali. One more time. We all come from the goddess, and to her we shall return like a drop of rain, flowing to the ocean. Beautiful. We sound good. I'm not surprised. I didn't mean to say that like it was surprising. So, hello, good morning, my friends. I am so happy to be invited back here. Thank you so much, Sally Jo, and to Jamal, and to be here with all of you, as always. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to offer my earth-based message today. And I want to begin by singing again. So now we're going to sing April Showers. And this is a old standard, April Showers, by Louis Silver and Buddy de Silva. It was made famous by Al Jolson back in the 1920s, so it's about 100 years old at this point. The words are in the program. I grew up listening to Al Jolson because my grandmother loved him, and I guess that my dad did too, so his record was often on our phonograph. Remember those? Anyway, I thought it was the perfect song with the right sentiment to kick off my sermon today, so here we go. And we're going to just do it a cappella. Some of you know it, some of you might not, but you can probably catch on as we go. And so I'll just start and you join in when you're ready. Though April showers may come your way, they bring the flowers that bloom in May. So if it's raining, have no regrets, because it isn't raining rain, you know it's raining violets. And when you see clouds upon the hills, you soon will see crowds of daffodils. So keep on looking for a bluebird and listening for his song whenever April showers come along. It's a sweet song, I think. And I'm really glad it's not raining today. So here we are on Easter Sunday. You know, when I was a kid, I understood why they called it Christmas, because it's a mass for Christ. Christmas, that made sense. It was like Easter. Easter. Why do they call it Easter? Where did the word Easter come from? What is the derivation of the word Easter? Well, I'm going to tell you. The word Easter is derived from the name of the pagan Anglo-Saxon goddess Ostara, or Ostra. Her name was spelled E-O-S-T-R-A. Now it's often spelled O-S-T-R-A. She's a goddess of the moon and the goddess of the springtime and the goddess of dawn, so a time of new beginnings. We also derive the word estrogen from her name because she's the goddess who brings fertility back to the land. And what is our most common symbol of fertility? The egg. Another common symbol for fertility is the rabbit. Now, we've all heard expressions breeding like rabbits, right? But rabbits are really no more fertile than other animals or other mammals. It's just that they have very large litters, and their pregnancies are only 1 month long. So they have babies pretty regularly. In many cultures, they see a rabbit in the moon, and that is another reason why Ostara's sacred animal is the hare. So we have the egg and the rabbit are associated with fertility, and now we know why we have an Easter bunny and not an Easter chicken. Because I also wondered about that. Rabbits don't lay eggs. Like, I don't know, it just didn't compute. Now, it's not surprising that these symbols, the bunnies, the eggs, and even baby chicks, representing the new generation, show themselves at Easter time in accordance with Mother Nature and the renewal of life on the planet. But I just love knowing their pagan roots, there's something so subversive about that. And I delight to know that the date for Easter is always chosen also in a very pagan way. It's always the first Sunday after the full moon, after the spring equinox. Like Christmas is always December 25th, but Easter kind of moves. Why is that? Because they're calculating it by the moon. So that's today. So on Easter Sunday everywhere, so many people are gathering to acknowledge and celebrate resurrection, and we will too. Only we're going to explore an older myth than that of Jesus of Nazareth. We're going back further into the history of our planet to explore the myth of Inanna of Sumer. she who came to be known as the Queen of Heaven and Earth. And when we look at the stories and myths from different cultures on our planet, a common theme is one of life and death and resurrection. The word itself, resurrection, means to resurface, to come up again. And we see it every year in nature. Every spring, life returns to the surface of the planet after its time of death and gestation in the underworld. And because of this natural fact, I believe so many of the resurrection stories originated from nature, because everything on the planet originated from nature, right? Right. Our brave goddess, maiden goddess Persephone makes her journey to the underworld in the autumn and returns in the spring. Isis's consort and lover Osiris is dismembered and his parts strewn everywhere. And it isn't until she finds and assembles and breathes life back into his body that he is resurrected. Inanna makes her journey to the underworld and spends 3 days there before she is transformed and returns to her throne on the surface of the earth. Jesus resurrects after 3 days in the tomb. Stories of goddesses and gods and heroes and heroines from cultures all over planet Earth tell the tales of life and then death, sometimes grisly death, followed by a period of time where the soul either rests or is given challenges, and then through initiation and transformation, resurrects, returns, comes back to the surface. So the story of Inanna, the Queen of Heaven and Earth, is a very, very old one. It predates Christianity by 2,000 years at least. And it was found on tablets found in the ancient Sumerian language written in cuneiform, which is the oldest yet written story ever found. There might be older oral stories, but this was the oldest one we have ever found written down on these clay tablets. So the story of Inanna's coming of age, descent into the underworld, and resurrection describes the goddess from the first civilization from which we have actual texts. And this doesn't necessarily mean that the story is true. Just because something is written doesn't make it true. But some of these are really good stories, and knowing them helps us to live better lives. So Inanna's story is really long and complicated, relaying her rise to maturity and power. And so I'm just going to give us the Reader's Digest version of it here today. But I encourage you to read the book, Inanna, Queen of Heaven and Earth, by Diane Wolkstein and Samuel Kramer. Their translation of the ancient texts of these tablets, which were unearthed in the early 20th century, is simply stunning. And there's a section at the beginning where they talk about how they found the tablets and pulled them together, and the international effort that it took to piece this story together again. It's really just a beautiful, beautiful thing. So anyway, in the beginning of this story, Inanna visits Anki, the god of wisdom, who bestows all the powers of the holy laws of heaven and earth upon her. Uh-oh, what happened there? Excuse me for one moment. Something went crazy here. Good thing I know this. Of course, here we go. Of course, this was done in a very amusing way, that she receives the powers from Anki, because he greets Inanna, he calls for the beer to flow. It's going to be this great celebration. As the night wears on, he begins to sway with the effect of the drink, and he becomes very generous in giving his powers. He says, "In the name of my power, in the name of the holy shrine, to my daughter Inanna, I shall give the highest priesthood, godship, the noble enduring crown, the throne of kingship, truth, the art of lovemaking, descent into the underworld, ascent from the underworld." And Inanna replies, "I take them." And in this way, the maiden becomes Queen of Sumer. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but Sumer is now modern-day Iraq. Now, there's not very much written about the life of Jesus between his birth and his death. But there is speculation that Jesus most probably studied with the masters in Egypt during this time about the mysteries of healing and levitation and so forth. And in this way, the story correlates to the gifts given to Inanna by Enki. Both Inanna and Jesus received their power as they reached their maturity. But Inanna is still a young woman who has not fallen in love. And the next part of her story is called The Courtship of Inanna and the Shepherd Dumuzi. It is some of the most beautiful and erotic poetry you will ever read. It's just gorgeous. Inanna chooses Dumuzi as her consort, and then she refers to him as lettuce planted by the water, which in the desert lands of Sumer, you can imagine, is really saying something. Dumuzi confesses his love for her, and the two consummate their love in the holy bed of kingship, and in this way, Inanna reaches the fullness of her womanhood, and the secrets and mysteries of love are revealed to her through this experience. Now, the work of Margaret Starbird, which I know you've had her here, or her some of her work presented here. And later, the success of the Da Vinci Code has really brought to public consciousness the concept of the divine marriage, the hieros gamos, between Jesus and Mary Magdalene. And Margaret Starbird, in her book, The Woman with the Alabaster Jar, has been telling us for years about this marriage. And there's a passage in all 4 books of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, in which a woman comes forth and pours the precious unguent of nard right over Jesus' head. And the comment that accompanies this action is what a wasteful woman she is to spill the whole jar's worth of precious stuff. But when you look at it from a pagan perspective, Mary was choosing her consort and wanted her choice not to be misconstrued by anyone. She pours the whole jar of oil on her love, so no one will mistake her chosen and sacred bridegroom. In the next part of Inanna's story, she sets her ear to the great below. That's how the translation goes. She sets her ear to the great below, which means she's listening. She's listening. And by this act, we understand that as the Queen of Heaven, also known as Venus or the morning star, the Queen of Earth in Sumer, she engages her consciousness to the great below. Now she's mature enough to understand that there's more that goes on just in her world. There's something more, there's something deeper. And so she abandons heaven and earth to descend to the underworld, which is a brave choice to make. She calls upon her faithful servant Ninshebur and instructs her that if she does not return from the underworld in 3 days, to go to Enki, the god of wisdom, who bestowed upon her the holy power of descent and the holy power of ascent, and surely will not let Inanna die. And because he has the food of life and the waters of life, and this will help her resurrect. Food of life and water of life. Sounds a bit like Jesus at the Last Supper, where he gathers his faithful around him, doesn't it? This bread is my body, this wine is my blood. So Inanna prepares herself for the descent into the underworld. She places a crown on her head. She ties the small lapis beads around her neck and lets another double strand of beads fall to her breast. She wraps the royal robe around her body. She anoints her eyes. I love that. She puts on her makeup. Well, of course I love that. She puts a breastplate in place. She slips a gold ring over her wrist and takes up the lapis measuring rod and line. These are all of her accoutrements of power in the upper world. Jesus prepares himself for his descent to the underworld. He walks in the Garden of Gethsemane. He speaks with his disciples and predicts what will transpire. And here is where the guards come looking for him. Inanna sets out for the underworld, and when she reaches the gate, she knocks loudly. "Open the door, gatekeeper. I alone would enter." "Who are you?" the gatekeeper asks. And she replies, "I am Inanna, the queen of heaven and earth." And he replies, "If you are truly Inanna, the queen of heaven, why has your heart led you on the road from which no traveler returns?" And she says, "I've come to visit my older sister, Ereshkigal. Her husband, the bull of heaven, has died. I've come to witness the funeral rites. Let it be done." And the gatekeeper says, "Stay here, Inanna. I will speak to my queen. I will give her your message." And he goes to the palace of Ereshkigal, the queen of the underworld, Inanna's sister. And he says to her, "My queen, a maid as tall as heaven and as wide as the earth, as strong as the foundation of the city, waits outside the palace gates." And when Ereshkigal heard this, she slapped her thigh and bit her lip. And I just love that description, the description of that gesture. And that it was written in this text because you can't misinterpret it. If someone does this, you know they're not happy. So Ereshkigal takes the matter into her heart, and she dwelt on it, and then she spoke, "Heed my words. Bolt the 7 gates of the underworld. Then one by one, open each gate a crack. Let Inanna enter, and as she enters, remove her royal garments. Let the holy priestess of heaven enter bowed low." Nice sister. So the guard heeded her words and bolted the 7 gates, and then he opened the outer gate, and he said to the goddess, "Come, Inanna, enter." And when she entered the first gate, her crown was removed. And Inanna asked, "What is this?" And she was told, "Quiet, Inanna. The ways of the underworld are perfect. They may not be questioned." And this occurred at each of the 7 gates as Inanna descended into the underworld. And at each gate, as another of her royal garments was removed, she asked, "What is this?" And she was told, "Quiet, Inanna. The ways of the underworld are perfect. They may not be questioned." Until finally, naked and bowed low, Inanna entered the throne room. So Inanna is stripped of her dignity and her earthly identity as queen before she enters the throne room of her dark sister, who now has the power over her earthly fate. Jesus is stripped of his dignity and is brought bound and cuffed to the authorities in whose hands lies his earthly fate. The judges of the underworld surround Inanna. They pass judgment against her. Jesus is brought first to Caiaphas, the high priest, who questions him about his teachings and his disciples, and the next morning he's brought to Pilate for judgment. The dark queen Ereshkigal fastens on Inanna the eye of death. She speaks against her the word of wrath. She utters against her the cry of guilt. She strikes her. Inanna turns into a corpse, and she is hung from a hook on the wall. Pilate questions Jesus, and when he does not like the answers he gets, he has Jesus flogged. He places a thorny crown on his head, and the people utter against him the cry of guilt. He is sentenced to crucifixion, and he is hung on a cross. So here we have our heroine and our hero, literally transfixed on their spiritual journey in the earthly plane. Both go willingly to their death. Both give up the garments and the titles that identify them as something special in the world, and both of them suffer. When after 3 days and 3 nights Inanna had not returned, her faithful servant Ninshibur goes to Anki, and she tells him. And from under his fingernail, Anki brings forth some dirt, and he fashions the dirt into 2 small creatures. And to one he gives the food of life, and to the other he gives the water of life. He instructs them to go to the underworld and to enter the door like flies, and he tells them that there he will find Ereshkigal in mourning. And when she cries, "Oh, my insides," they should respond to her, "Oh, your insides." And when she cries, "Oh, my outsides," they should respond, "Oh, your outsides." The queen will be pleased by this demonstration of compassion. And then she will offer them a gift. Ask only for the corpse that hangs on the hook on the wall. Sprinkle the food of life and the water of life on the corpse. Inanna will rise, and that is exactly what happened. She was about to ascend when the judges of the underworld surrounded her and said, "Oh, wait. No one ascends from the underworld unmarked. If Inanna wishes to return from the underworld, she must provide someone in her place." Now, Ninshaba is waiting at the first gate for when she returns, and she falls to the ground at her feet in relief and reverence for the goddess, and the judges tell Inanna to go on. They'll take her servant. But Inanna refuses to let them take the one who essentially saved her. And so they go on, and soon they encounter both of Inanna's sons, who also fall at her feet with relief when they see their resurrected mother. Inanna refuses to let her loving sons be taken, and then they come upon Dumuzi, her consort. Poor Dumuzi makes a really bad choice here. He remains sitting in his throne, the throne that Inanna placed him upon, dressed in his finery, as if seeing Inanna again was no big deal. Guess who becomes proxy? Now, I searched and searched, really, but there's nothing I could find in the Bible about what occurred for Jesus during the 3 days in the tomb, or how the magic about his resurrection actually took place. But on the morning of the 3rd day, Mary Magdalene went to the tomb and saw that the stone had been removed from in front of it. She stood crying there, and then Jesus appeared before her. Both our heroine and our hero resurrected from the dead. Both knew ahead of time what was in store for them, and both prepared for it. Both demonstrated the miracle of life after death, both by returning in physical form and appearing before their beloveds. They descended into death, and they rose to the surface again. Now, there is so much more to this story. I mean, I really did give you the Reader's Digest version. For instance, later, Dumuzi's sister, in her grief over her brother, agrees to alternate time in the underworld so that Dumuzi can return to the earth for a while. It's kind of like another bargain is made, not unlike the bargain made for Persephone's destiny with 6 pomegranates, 6 months below and 6 months above. Above and below, above and below, above and below. The cycle turns, and as long as Earth remains firmly on her axis in the heavens, that cycle will continue. And we clever humans, we make beautiful stories to help us integrate and embrace this mystery, and that is a beautiful thing. The problem comes when we try to enforce our story as the only story, and then we use it to oppress others. That's the only problem with it. But all the stories that speak to these essential universal truths are just magnificent. So as children of nature, we can utilize this time of blossoming spring to bring to consciousness not only that resurrection is part of the life cycle, but what we need to resurrect in our own lives, especially in these very troubling times. And so this brings me a bit more surely to your theme this year, which is cutting through the illusion and replacing our human-centric ideas with the understanding that we are connected with all species, which I love. And this month specifically, I'm focusing on the principle of transforming suffering through meditative practices. So I'll ask you, if you would, to close your eyes and go within. And imagine now that you are walking somewhere in nature. It could be anywhere in nature that you find beautiful, safe, and welcoming. It could be a park, the woods, the beach, on a mountaintop. anywhere, but you are not contained inside any man-made building. And it is a beautiful day, much like this one, but the weather, the temperature is exactly as you like it. And you can notice the bird song. You can feel the energy of aliveness in this natural setting. There is nothing electronic going on, and you can feel your nervous system relax. In fact, take a nice deep breath and let it all go. And now I'll ask you to find something in nature, a tree, a stone, a log, and have a seat and lean against it. And really let it support you. Feel that part of nature that's got your back. And we'll just take a moment now in the quiet to feel the presence of nature that is always so healing, that always helps us slow down, that always lets our minds calm. So we'll just take a moment to feel that and feel the support of whatever you are leaning against. Then take another deep breath. And wherever it is that you are seated, or wherever it was that you were still in the presence of nature, start walking again. And notice the difference in your body. Maybe your heart rate has gone down a little bit. You notice your mind feels clear. Your spirits feel lifted. And that's because of nature, the natural setting. It wanted nothing of you. It only wanted to support you. It only welcomed your presence. And there was something about being there like that, where nothing was demanded of you, where you were not responsible for anything, even if just for a moment, that began to heal you. That reminded you that healing is possible in this complicated, noisy world. And then gently walk yourself right back here to this sanctuary in our circle together. And when you arrive, gently open your eyes and come back here. Now, I don't mean to say that we are not responsible for nature, responsible for the planet. As Sally Jo said early on, we are responsible. All of our actions, all of our thoughts, everything that we do and we be and how we interact matters. And when we stay at our highest vibration and we are always acting for the highest good of all, that's how we are responsible. And every once in a while, we need a break. Even God rested on Sunday, right? We need time off of the constant, because we don't do well when we are fried. And nothing abates suffering like nature. Nothing abates suffering like being out in nature. It might seem simplistic, but it really is true. So I recommend that when you find yourself suffering over the state of the world, which I am sure all of us are doing, that we put down the phone and we unplug from every electric thing and all that electricity keeps running, and we spend some time in nature, even if it's your own backyard or the nearest park, or even by just sticking your nose into a group of daffodils at the Safeway flower department and inhaling deeply, right? Lean against that tree if you can. Go slow and deepen your breathing. Imagine growing roots in the soil. Get quiet. Tune into nature. Listen for the bird song. Allow yourself to blend into the environment, even if only for a few moments. And repeat as necessary, like make it part of your spiritual practice. We're not separate from nature, because the birds, the trees, the flowers, all the animals are also citizens of the earth, and we are not separate. We have separated ourselves from nature, but we are not really separate. So when we merge with nature in even the smallest way, even for the shortest amount of time, we return to our natural state. And in these difficult times, that means we heal. So, my friends, may the resurrection and renewal of spring bring joy to your heart and keep you motivated to work for justice. Because when injustice happens to anyone, it happens to all of us. Go to nature for healing. And today especially, don't forget to eat some peeps. Blessed be. Sure.
Thank you so much, Judith, for that beautiful storytelling time for us and sharing. And I'd like to give an opportunity to our congregants to reflect on anything that might have come up for them during your talk, any questions, any feelings, thoughts, whatever. And I'll let you respond if you feel so called, as we just kind of think about what we've been pondering here this morning and how it might have resonated with us or anything that might have come up. And I'll bring the microphone around to anyone who has anything that comes up.
Thank you. That was such an amazing story. I love to hear archetypal stories and the overlays between them. And thank you for bringing the Christ resurrection story today, especially. That's so amazing and beautiful. I was also really touched by at the end when you said our stories, that we make a mistake when we think it's a special story to us. It's like all of our stories are archetypal stories. Our lives are just this series of events that invite us to participate and learn from them. And it's just like, something just kind of popped. And it's like, oh, my whole life is an archetypal story. So yeah, thank you for that. That was just so lovely.
Anyone else? Yeah.
So, as our friend Patrick says, when you start making an intent and you plan something that's going to happen, it starts happening before you get here. And yesterday I was just hanging out at home going, I'm not going to do anything, I'm taking a day. And a friend needed help, and so I went to Issaquah, and we went wandering through Confluence Park. And I'm a tree hugger. I do this all the time. But for some reason yesterday, and it really stood out to me, I was leaning up against this tree at the park, looking down at the creek, and I could just feel this tree just like, I'm just going to hang here. And then you, in our little vision class, did that, and I could feel it still here. And I just want to thank you for that. Every time you speak, I'm like crying. So thank you so much for being here.
I just want to say thank you, Judith. I always love your services when you come here. Every time it's so rich, and I really want to thank you for all the research that you do and your beautiful writing. And as I was listening to you, I thought, wow, she's put a lot of work into this. And I'm really, really, really grateful for your work and then sharing it with us. Thank you so much.
First to say thank you for the thank you, but I was a little nervous about this one too, because, I'm not I'm a pagan priestess. Like, who am I to talk about Jesus, I'm like, uh-oh, what are you doing? But I thought, well, Interfaith will be fine with it, and also really the overlay is nature, and then it's just how those stories express from that mystery of life and death and return. Even if you, I believe in reincarnation. And so, I think the soul is eternal and the body is temporal. And we come back again and again and again for our souls to evolve through a myriad of experiences. And those stories, it's like you were saying, we come here to learn, each story is unique and we get what we get from it. But anyway, I just remember putting this thing together thinking, all right. Maybe lightning's going to strike me in this church, no, I don't think so. So I'm glad that it worked for everybody. Thank you.
Oh, just to add that it hit me on so many levels, which was really beautiful.
I just want to say, Judith, thank you so much for a very wise and meaningful talk today, but also to thank you so much for gracing this place here, Interfaith Community Church and now Sanctuary, ever since 1990s.
Yeah.
You know, you've been coming here for a long time. And I want to say that this wonderful Wiccan therapy that you're doing, or philosophy, has kept you so young. You haven't changed one tiny bit.
You could just say that all day.
Because, facts are facts. Truth is truth. But thank you for gracing us and really enlightening us.
Thank you, Janelle.
Yeah, I liked how you compared the two stories. That was really just really eye-opening and interesting to, juxtapose the two stories. But the other thing I wanted to, I guess, ask for prayers. It seems like the springtime can be a portal for death. And so two people that I know passed away this week. So one was a Chinese man who lived to 104. He's the father of a client of mine, Quan Ying, and he passed on Monday at 104. And then someone who's a bit younger, a friend of Carl, my partner Carl's, he was a fellow caregiver, just died of prostate cancer. His name is Chris Burke. So two people have gone to the other side this week.
I'm always thrilled when you're here. Thank you so much. And like so many other people have said, I loved the overlay of those two stories that, and I have believed that through time, those stories keep resurrecting, right? In different forms. I also really loved the very beginning when you talked about the genesis of Easter, and I didn't know some of those things, so I'm really grateful for that. I'm struck by two things. Besides all that, there is the big resurrection, and then there's the little resurrection, right? And you touched on them both. So the death, the leaving of the body, but then you also talked about and did a meditation around the little resurrection, the little resurrections that we can do every day, which is to stop when we're dead tired and take a break and resurrect. So I saw both of those things, and I'm glad that you covered them both. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so glad that we got here in time. Left the house a little bit later today, and I'm so glad I was able to hear the opening music, and we're always blessed anytime that you come to us, and thank you. What you're citing, the book about Anana, brought to mind a book club that I'm helping to organize here. It's based on the book The Alphabet versus the Goddess by Leonard Shlain. And this next meeting, we may be talking about some of the story from the Sumer text and how it juxtaposes between, with the Sumer sort of cuneiform alphabet versus the Egyptian picture alphabet, or their version of the stories, and how their society had different ways of dealing with male-female relations. And it really, one book in the future, I'm hoping someday we might study is the book about Anana, and it really, I don't know if I'll be able to help us bring the same understanding, but I really appreciate you being here to help us with that. Thank you.
In honor of the Queen of Heaven and Earth that I cited here. As I said, they talk about the extraordinary way that they found the tablets, that people in different areas found the tablets, and what it took to pull them all together, and then what it took to crack this ancient, to decipher this language that is so ancient, and how beautifully poetic it is. And so it's all written, the whole story, all three parts, where she gets her power, where she falls in love, and the descent of Inanna and her ascent again, is all in this magnificent poem-like quatrains. And it's just gorgeous. I mean, I must have read it like 4, 5, 6 times. I just, every once in a while I go back and I read it again. And I mentioned that the story of Dumuzi and Inanna, their love story, is just so gorgeous, and it's so erotic. And that also brings us to like this other ancient universal truth about being human in our bodies and what we feel when we fall in love. And, the mini deaths, like the mini resurrections, it's just like, wow, this story is like probably 10,000 years old. There's something just so beautiful to me about that no matter how far we go into the future, we are the creatures we are. And what we feel, what we know, what we learn, what we believe, it's universal. So lovely.
Well, that's gorgeous. Well, we can talk some more downstairs. And thank you again, Judith. We're very grateful to have you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And, Joey, your comment reminded me of a verse from the Quran that talks about resurrection. It's very short. It just says, in the name of God, the infinitely compassionate and most merciful, God it is who makes the night a garment for you and your sleep a respite, and who causes every new day to be a resurrection. And it uses that word. So I thought of that this morning when I was talking about resurrection of spring, and I knew that Judith was going to. I didn't know what the story Judith was going to tell. That was just as much of a beautiful surprise to me. But I've thought about that quote when you were speaking. So let's move in briefly to our sharing our wealth, getting an opportunity to help pay for all the beautiful work that's going on around this beautiful building. I want a round of applause because we got our gutters cleaned yesterday. Perfectly clean. All the junk that was in them came out with the help of water and 2 wonderful gentlemen, Octavio and his companion there, and they were climbed up on the roof and did all kinds of wonderful things up there. They're not completely finished. They will be painting the east side of the building soon, which has not been painted. Steve tells me since he's been at this church, at this particular house of worship. So it's time to get the east side of the building painted. That will be a process we will be going through. I hope it'll go smoothly. And we're also getting some repairs done on the chimney in the back. So Octavio will be hanging around and helping, and we'll be very happy with the renewal of our building, which is always going on, and it's going on outside in the garden, it's going on inside in our programs, and in all that we offer, all the different programs, and we can move into it. And thank you out there in cyberspace for those of you who are helping us to keep up with our live streaming, and thank you, Bryce, for keeping our live streaming going to allow people who cannot be here in person to be with us online and to share with us that way. And I know many of them share their treasure with us as well. And all the people, I want to give a special round of thanks to John and his son Ted, and to George, who's with his family today and couldn't be at the service today. The 3 of them spent over 10 hours downstairs in the kitchen, replacing the wiring in the overhead light there and replacing the lighting so that it's no longer fluorescent. It now, and that was no easy task because it had been done in a very haphazard way originally, and they got it all sorted out. I kept coming back and they were still working. Oh my God. But they did complete it in a beautiful way, and now we have, we have LEDs in there now that won't have to be replaced for years. They're going to last, as George said, forever, but that's not exactly forever, but pretty close. So we're very, very happy about that. And the work that went into it is part of our treasure that we offer this community, all the different hours of hard work that is volunteered on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. We're very, very grateful. We have gatherings every day of the week and every evening. We have special gatherings. We have concerts. We have Dances for Universal Peace coming up in April. In May, that'll be happening in May. We have a meal together with other congregants from other local churches, Unity Church and CSL, and we have a special, and also with Narankari Mission. And that, what's the date for that, Jamal? Yeah, thank you.
Please keep the date of April 26th. It's a Sunday, the fourth Sunday, from 1:30 to 3:30. We have a special program which we are doing with those three houses of worship. It's just to get to know one another. And it's free lunch. So once again, April 26th, 1:30 to 3:30, downstairs.
We also have a membership retreat coming up here at ICS that will be in May. Let me get the date here. It is May 16th, which is a Saturday in the afternoon for several hours. We're planning to go from 12:30 to 4:30 and do some more work in our spiritual discernment on that Saturday, and Jamal and I will be leading that with help from others. And as I said, with the Dances for Universal Peace are the evening before that on Friday, the 15th of May. And we even have an outside group of folk singers who's going to come in and present a concert, and I'll be sending out a flyer about that. They're renting our building, but they've invited us to come for music. So we're trying to keep our place alive with activities that will keep our spirits lifted high and our community of people who want to be together, celebrating life and celebrating love and celebrating each other and our diversity and our beautiful offerings. And I know Elizabeth and John are offering a retreat on Whidbey Island that they're going to open for everybody. Do you want to mention that and the date?
July 18th, so do a save the date. It's a one-day retreat over at Earth Sanctuary and a really amazing, beautiful piece of land. A one-day retreat where we talk about the energy of summer and what that means on the medicine wheel, and we'll talk about that a little bit, and then you go out on the landscape, participate in what does summer feel like to me, the energy of summer, and then we'll come around and talk about it, and we'll feed you.
Where is Earth Sanctuary? It's on Whidbey Island, and we'll be getting directions. Yeah, not too far away. And also, we keep track of our website and our Monday announcements, that go out, our upcoming gatherings. We have things that meet right here in person, the book group that Chris was mentioning and our meditation group. We have groups that meet online. We have the Whirling Dervishes who come on Monday evening, and then again on the third Sunday after Jamal's service that evening. There's a lot of different ways of expressing our spiritual expression, our spiritual longing, our spiritual learning, and we welcome all forms of whatever speaks to each and every one of us, and keep looking for what will especially speak to you. And the Wild Church, which happens once a month or so. First Saturday of every month, and that's down at Carkeek Park, right down the road from us. So we are trying to live this spiritual discernment this year. We're not just reading about it, we're not just talking about it. We are doing those things, and we're trying to live it together in community, and that's the point of it. Okay, and we need to live it individually as well as in community, and that's what we are doing here on Sunday morning. So we really appreciate that. So we'll say goodbye to the folks online and thank them for their participation. I'll ring the bell so they'll know that we have finished. We bring that portion of our service to a close, and we have a chance now for sharing our hearts. And this might be for those who would like to speak in a more private setting. I still use the microphone so that we all can hear each other. But this is a time to bring prayers